Hi, this is Andre.
This is Hansi. We are Blind Guardian, and you're listening and watching Linea Rock.
Hi Hansi, hi Andre from the band Blind Guardian. An honor for us to have you here in Milan at Linea Rock. Welcome back.
Thank
Great
you.
to be here.
Good to have you. So, a new album is about to come out, and it's been 4 years since the last album, At the Edge of Time. In the last 15 years, actually, the gap between albums has been 4 years at least. Okay, so that's not new, but so the 30th of January, actually, it's been postponed 1 week about, 3rd of February is the new date release of the record. On Nuclear Blast again. The new record is called Beyond the Red Mirror. So, first question that I have to make to you. Looking behind the mirror, which is a line from the song Lost in the Twilight Hall, what the diehard Blind Guardian fans will find this time behind this mirror?
He'll find out that there are two directions to look through.
Okay.
One will deliver a sort of fantasy world, which contains a lot of dystopian elements, so it's not the nice fairy tale fantasy world anymore. And if you look from this side into the other world, you will find a world similar to ours, but this one contains a little more magic than ours, because there has been a magical sort of exchange between these two worlds.
Okay. You always showed an evolution in your sound, keeping it at the same time consistent and true to itself. On the new album, we hear, the sophistication of A Night at the Opera, the choirs of Nightfall, but all with a symphonic approach, in a sense. How would you introduce Blind Guardian sound marked 2014? Actually 15, since the album is coming out in a few months. Okay.
I would say it's a logical progression of what we have done ever since Battalions of Fear. There is a sort of development which will hopefully surprise people, and you can find a little sensation of all the previous work on this one, but there is a sort of forecast into the future as well, and that would be the orchestral album, and therefore the organic inclusion of these elements was a sign of foreseeing for the future. This is what the people are going to expect with the next one. There's just orchestra. We felt it, like a natural process to go that direction once we started songwriting. There were two different elements involved in songwriting. One was a more futuristic, sci-fi sort of cineastic, dystopian, disturbing music, and then on the other hand these more organic, classical elements, and we just loved the combination.
And do the idea of using the two orchestras and the three choirs actually in the album came maybe from the song like Sacred or Wheel of Time from the past, and how did you choose the orchestra and choirs?
It helped, definitely. There is a link to Sacred Words and Wheel of Time when it comes to orchestration. We gained a lot of confidence due to these two songs, especially when we worked on Wheel of Time, that had such a natural flow and was so inspiring that at that point already it has been obvious we would go further into that direction. And when Andre came up with the first classical pieces, it was even more obvious that the linking, the connecting between heavy metal music and orchestra had achieved the next level. And then we just started working with the orchestras, and that's a natural thing for them to perform when they receive scores. So the pre-work, which we have to do before we go to Prague or Budapest, is bigger than actually what we have to do during the recordings, because these guys are professional, and once they know the scores, they just perform and everything will be fine. There is a reason for two orchestras, and that's adapted to the fact that the Czech orchestra, which we are used to work with, did not find a gap for our second run of orchestral songs. And then we were in need of another orchestra, which we found in Hungary.
Okay.
And so they don't perform at the same time.
All right. So it was just a logistic
right.
thing.
But they did it well. And
Okay.
they are both great, and there's nothing to complain about. The choir thing is slightly different because we have that huge choir part in the Ninth Wave, and that needed more than just 40 people.
Okay.
And since we couldn't find a 200-person choir, we tried to work with as many choirs as possible to get the individual approach of different voices, and therefore we ended up with 3 choirs in 3 different countries.
Actually, 7 years ago, you already had a project with an orchestra actually in mind, and you had like 10 songs ready to go. Is this new album the evolution of that idea? In a sense that maybe it was, left behind, and now is the right moment to bring it back?
It is more sort of separate thing, which definitely is influenced, by this orchestral stuff. But if you look at the new songs, they need the band performance, while the orchestral stuff just needs orchestra and my performance.
Okay, so it's different. Okay. Yeah. The Ninth Wave is the opening track. 9 minutes of magnificence, we can say. Just like the track that ends the record, which is Grand Parade, which is another 9 epic minutes. The idea is that they are the intro and the outro to us, actually, when we listen to them. A sort of doors, opening this new world and closing, in a sense, for now, this world. Like operas in an opera, we can define like that. Were they the hardest songs for you to work on, or on the opposite, they came very naturally to you guys, since your style is very complex in itself, very direct but complex as well, so it's a particular mixture.
Right.
Were they the hardest songs to work to?
They were easy. It's sometimes you cannot explain these things, they just appear all of a sudden. Grand Parade was easy going song when we recorded it and when we composed it. There's no explanation for it. It seemed we have been at a good point of the creative process when we started this one. It didn't create any problems, and we immediately knew that this would be one of the most important songs of the album. Okay. And it was even more obvious when we did the Ninth Wave. This was the last song we accomplished for the album, and we were just in need for a sort of introduction into the album, because we already made a plan that Grand Parade would end up the album. Okay. And we needed something at the beginning which had the same impact in a different way. And when the first ideas appeared, Andre delivered, I don't know, probably a minute to me. I was immediately aware that this would be the opener and that this would be one of the most outstanding songs on the album. It contains the most surprises, and it was a very logical decision to present that on number 1, plus the nice choir, which will hopefully blow people away.
The fact that you changed your mind on the title for Grand Parade, it has to be entitled like Irish Hill or something like that. Okay. What happened? I mean, how can you compose a song with a title and then you change your mind? Which was the process? We're curious about it.
Shall I say, or what do you want to say?
It's better you say.
But that's quite easy. Sometimes there are working titles delivered even without any vocals when Andre starts working on a particular track. And he may have something in mind which does not match what he's working on at that moment. And this has been the case here. And it wouldn't have fitted into the concept. That was another reason. Right. But when I listened to it, I was always wondering, well, okay, why is he calling it Irish Hills?
But I remember now, in the beginning, there was parts in the song that we cut out later. Okay. And these parts, for me, had some folkloristic elements in there. And because of that, I thought of Irish Hills could be it. I only wanted to say with this name that it will have an epic direction, and that I will build something up, probably with orchestration, because we had already one part which was very orchestral, but there was this medieval part, and we took the medieval part out, and then the hill was cut off.
What is it like, an Irish hill? Tell me about it.
It's a nice area to have a nice walk.
With hobbits.
Okay. And the song At the Edge of Time has the same title of the previous album, but is on this one. Why this particular choice? Any virtual connection with, the previous album on this song? What happened?
I think it was a nice plot, but in first case it has been related to the idea of having a concept which is connected to imaginations from the other side, and in particular to And the Story Ends. In And the Story Ends, there actually is a line saying At the Edge of Time.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where this line comes from.
Okay.
And I just thought, okay, we have had the line in the song, we have had an album called like this, so it was about the time to close
Have
the
a song.
circle
Yeah.
and have a song like that.
All right.
And by whatsoever reason, maybe because I like the words or whatsoever, they already were appearing in the chorus part, so it absolutely made sense. Plus, the storyboard at that point really, deals with the edge of time.
Okay. And concerning the lyrics, there's a connection with Imagination from the Other Side, how the new album refers to the songs, like Bright Eyes or And the Story Ends.
Yeah, it takes over, you can say. When you listen to And the Story Ends, you will at the very end see that the protagonist, the young boy, stands in front of a mirror and is supposed to make a jump to a different dimension.
Okay.
And this is where I took over. I started thinking about the boy and what he may have done 20 years ago. And I decided he was not courageous enough to take the jump. So he stayed in his world, and due to that, several disastrous consequences occurred. And this is what the album is about, how the boy who has become a man tries to find a way to this other dimension, and in that he needs to find the red mirror, which is the last natural port in between these two worlds.
Right. The production sounds very clean and strong this time. Charlie is in charge of it again.
Yes.
Was this a more complex album to work and record production-wise for you, or it's like now you are like a team with Charlie and everything goes straight, to the point?
I would say yes, it went very straight, and we have we have a very nice atmosphere to work with each other. But for me, the most important thing to work with Charlie is that we are building something up. Over the years. Started with the opera album, where we did still many mistakes in the production, but we learned from the mistakes, got better and better, and improved some techniques and processes in recording as well, that the sound got better with each album. And I think we could only achieve such a great sound because we work with each other for so long.
But the fact of having the orchestras and the choir made it maybe a little bit complex?
I would say the work we do prior to an album or prior to the production is very precise.
So.
And therefore lots of things are sorted out already. But still seeing the coordination, and having everything in mind and holding under control, this is an issue, and this is an accomplishment. We have our part in it, but this is the work of the producer, and I'm sure he has had a hard time sometimes.
And you say his surname because it's a Bauerhand, is that correct?
Almost.
Okay. Sorry about that.
There's no problem.
Okay.
It's Bauerfeind.
All right. Okay. And how long did it take this time to record? Actually longer or pretty much the same as
we
the
have had
past?
productions which took more time, but still the focus was so strong and so concentrated by everyone that it was one of the most challenging productions nonetheless. The production process within 2.5 years of songwriting and production would be probably 12 months.
Wow, pretty long. Felipe Machado made the cover artwork. Did I say it correctly?
Yes,
So,
perfect.
And you already worked with him, as you worked also with Andreas Marschall in the past. What's the peculiarity of each of them, and how do you decide who's the best to do the cover each time?
It's fairly easy. Andreas Marschall has been the best artist I could imagine in the 90s for Blind Guardian, because he had a certain style which fitted that era perfectly. And then we changed artists after Nightfall in Middle-earth and got some who were good but not as good as Andreas. And when we started talking with Felipe, it occurred that he is a huge Andreas Marschall fan.
Okay.
This helped already. So
another circle then.
There's another circle, and he, different to Andreas Marschall, has some techniques which, from my personal view, fit better to what we're doing nowadays. It's a little more modern. It has a stronger attitude in terms of keeping things vague, but having something in the center which catches the attention of the one who's looking at the cover. And therefore, it was an easy decision. And Felipe is someone who comes up with ideas very quickly, while Andreas is a person who really needs to keep his focus on one piece of work. And this can turn out good, or you have bet on the wrong horse. You know, you have these two versions of Andreas Marschall, and Felipe easily can maintain a different version and a different version and a different version, and therefore the choices we have are far higher with Felipe.
And we have more influence, and we like to have influence on everything which is released under the name of Blind Guardian. So for another artist who would paint with oil, for example, would be very, very difficult and time demanding to change details if we want to have it different. And for Felipe, this is possible with this technique. So we have the freedom to go a little bit better for our taste. And so this album can be 100% what we want.
And did he propose the actual design that went on the cover straight immediately, or did he propose different designs? How did it work?
You will see most of the images he has come up with during that procedure. And they are all great.
Okay.
There are some I even like more, but they did not fit an artwork as this one does. Okay. He related to anything I sent to him within 10, 20, 30 minutes sometimes.
Wow.
It's amazing. It's unbelievable. And I mean, this is a concept which is fairly complicated, but he just read, my story plots for 2 songs and got back with 2 images, and they were right on spot. They were so amazing. You will see them in the artwork, in the booklet. And it's magic. It's really magic what he's doing. I mean, he's really talented, and he has a gift. I mean, that's...
Yeah, cool. 2015 marks Blind Guardian 30th anniversary, a great goal to reach for any band. Do you have any special plan to celebrate and for each of you personal-wise, which has been the peak of your career up to now?
I think like in the old days, we go and get a 6-pack of beer.
We call that survival package.
Okay.
Well, actually, we just enjoy being on the road and presenting the album. So I personally do not relate to the 30th anniversary. It is, as you said, it is an accomplishment, but something we would never ever think about, because it doesn't feel like, and we want to go on forever, basically.
Okay.
So this is just another anniversary to say so.
Just another number, and there will be more.
But,
that's cool.
But yeah, actually it is.
And also 2015 marks Imagination from the Other Side 20th anniversary.
Right.
Will you ever play it live in its entirety?
I would say no.
Maybe.
No, no plans
No,
on that.
it
Okay.
has to be at least 30 years.
Okay.
No, but honestly, we still believe that diverse setup of songs of all eras is what pleases the fan the most. And of course, you would please some people in playing, let's say, Somewhere Far Beyond and Imaginations in its entirety.
Yeah.
But for us, that would be sort of sacrilege against the other album,
right.
so we don't do that.
Any band has its issues, as any group of people in any kind of work and ambient everything. But you deliver a certain sense of family and strong friendship. Also, playing, you sound like a unity which goes, with millimetric harmony. What's the secret of your union? And is it actually a family, from the creative process, to tour and, everyday life as we see it?
It is. We are very careful with how we deal with the daily situation. I mean, we are respecting each other, and even that we have different tastes, different view of things. Nobody tries to interfere in the other lives. When we meet, we have a great harmony, and we can talk about everything. We discuss things if we have problems. We even fight when we have problems. But that shows that we have passion and heart blood for what we do. And when we bring in people in the band, like in the tour tours, when you are around with 15 people, we choose very wisely, I think. Like, not everybody can get in this family circle. So we have to see first we see about the personality of the guy before it comes to his abilities in his job.
And you work on the lyrics pretty much on your own, but we can consider that anyways, like a team thing. I mean, you tell the guys what you're working on and you decide together, or that is just on you?
I have a lot of freedom.
Okay.
But I relate to the guys. Like, for instance, Andre comes up with a song title, Encrypted Time.
Yeah.
And that starts a thinking process in me. So I try to keep at least the essential of his original idea, if possible, not as it was with Irish Hills, for example.
Okay.
What I do is, at a certain point, especially when we're talking about a concept, I will get back to them and ask them if they think it's wise to go that direction, and they can say, that's stupid. And there were cases like on the Imaginations, actually, I had lines about Donald Duck and Charlie Brown, whatever, it fitted into the concept back then, and they didn't like it, so I deleted immediately, because I understand, this might be a little too far off, even though it made sense back then. So they have a chance to say, well, that's completely peanuts what you're talking about, and go into a different direction. But it's usually not the case, because, I think, since I'm in charge of the vocal melodies, and I have a certain way in expressing performance things already, I always have a vision where I want to deliver a song. I think Andre's most important influence here is the music again. The music tells you a certain story already, even without lyrics, and this is what I follow.
Okay. You're coming back on tour in Italy. On the 5th of May you'll be in Milano, and on the 6th you will be in Rome.
Right.
You will be playing in Milano di Alcatraz, which is a place you know well, that always welcomed you very warmly.
That's true.
Do you have any anticipation for us on the next tour, like on the set list, opening acts, and will you bring the orchestra this time, since you said that it's very... Now the direction goes that way, so we can expect that?
The direction goes that way, no orchestra this time. Maybe next time, we'll see. What is important to know, there will be an individual set of songs, and they will go back to the Talents of Fear and follow up until we reach Beyond the Red Mirror, which will be a main act or a main part of this touring, definitely. We will be supported by Orphaned Land, a great band from Israel. and we have some great ideas about images, stage images. They will be red and there will be mirrors, and that's it.
All right. Okay, very quick, last one, or they're gonna kill me.
It looks like.
Yes. Is there any special reason why power metal is mainly a German trademark from your point of view? Since you are one of the main acts.
Well, yeah, I have had this discussion a couple of times. We do not consider ourselves to be a power metal band, even though our record company calls us progressive power metal.
Yes.
We consider ourselves as heavy metal. Okay. Power metal is basically an Italian, German, and Swedish issue. So there are a lot of good bands. I think it's based on the mentality, on the way the people think, how they relate to music in general. Because power metal, even if we're not included, is something dramatic, and people from these countries seem to like it a lot.
All right. Thanks very much, guys, for your time, and see you soon, pretty soon. In a few months you will be back in Italy, and again, big compliments for your new record, which is amazing.
Grazie.
Thank you so much. Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.